Pirates Fire Dragon Roar Chapter 821 to 840. Chapter 821 Closing. Time went back to a while ago, just after Vlad brought Fujitora into the different space. It's an amazing ability. The space was transformed in an instant, and the original seabed-like scene instantly turned into a green space. I think this is the space connected behind the power of the magical pirate ship Platinum D-Drake of the Fire Dragon Pirates. Bar, Fujitora exclaimed. The huge pirate ship was suspended not far from him, and the fiery red color made it suspended in the sky like a huge flame, which was extremely eye-catching. Really? Vlad has changed back to the appearance of a human, and proudly showed off, D-Drake is super powerful. Like a silly dad showing off his son. However, Vlad turned his head, not knowing how far it extended into the green space. Below, a dark crowd floated leisurely, looking extremely infiltrating. Have you not woken up yet? Tisk. Shaking his head, Vlad looked a little helpless. No way, these guys, if they look like this, they won't even be able to go to the battlefield in the future. After Kaido was stabbed by Vlad before, the terrifying conqueror haki that broke out from breaking the limit almost instantly put all the miscellaneous soldiers on both sides and cleared the field directly. The miscellaneous soldiers on the side of the beasts were all killed by the chef, maid and others who ended the battle, but the guys on my side were still sleeping, which was too embarrassing. Can't get tickets. After all, it has basically been confirmed now that this guy who claims to be the king of the world is the black beast hidden behind the government. If Vlad wants to become One Piece, king of pirates, he will definitely face this guy's obstruction. Can't these guys be of no help at all? So disappointing, right? Drag. After a few seconds of disappointment, Vlad had recovered his senses and said loudly, "Where's the gift for brother I am?" Gifts. On the deck of the Platinum D-Drake, the chef smiled, waved his right hand, and the butter arm extending behind his back grabbed a huge glass bottle from the deck and threw it at Vlad. Ooh. The server looked like he was making a fuss, and hurriedly pressed the bottle with his left hand. Take it easy, my chef friend, if this bottle is broken, we'll all have to finish the game. This is... Fujitora's eyes are blind, of course he can't see what's in the bottle, but he's blind doesn't mean that the other Marines are also blind. Suru Vice Admiral's eyes widened, and he seemed to be very surprised. Dynamite rock. Such a quantity. What she saw was really quite amazing. Vlad floated in the air, a huge glass bottle full of liquid, and then, soaked in the liquid, piled up one by one the rocks that cork the glass bottles are dynamite rocks. Just one piece can blow up the terrifying power of an island, and at the same time concentrate so much together. Just as Vlad said, if the bottle is really broken, and the explosive rock and the air come into contact, I'm afraid they won't survive a few of them. Yeah, dynamite rock. Vlad smiled. It was given to General Wanokuni by another group of CP0s. It seemed that they wanted to blow up the entire Wanokuni, but unfortunately, they failed. What? Suru Vice Admiral frowned. As we all know, the explosive rock is all in the hands of the government, and the rest, whether it is a big country with a long history, or the all-powerful One Piece king of pirates, no one has ever owned such a thing, so of course, only the government can get a lot of explosive rocks. It's okay to use dynamite rocks to take down the dragon pirates, but the problem is, Marine is also on the island. Okay. Vlad didn't say much. Anyway, what should be revealed has been revealed, and he is not worse than these two sentences. Drager, gate of opening. Vlad turned his head and looked at the instantly nervous Lord Yimu who seemed to be standing in front of him across a space, and said with a smile, "It's time to surprise our brother Yimu." Hi. As always, D-Drake was the most cheerful response. Click. The door suddenly opened, and in an instant, Vlad had transformed into a huge dragon man, grabbed the glass bottle in his hand, and threw it out. Then, the door closed, and even though it was separated by a space, it was easy to observe Im's annoyed appearance. Then there is... Boom. Explosion. The glass bottle was exploded by the compressed fireball attached to it by Vlad, and the explosive rock inside came into contact with the air, and then, a violent explosion happened. If Vlad throws fireballs and throws flame guns in various ways, the effect is like a small sun, then the explosion created by these explosive rocks is as bright as a cosmic explosion. Vlad can't see anything anymore. Even if it is separated by a space, the dazzling light has deprived all vision. He only feels that there is nothing in front of him, and he can't see anything. For a long time, until a long time later, the dazzling brilliance finally dimmed. Vlad blinked and shook his head, and then he saw what happened in the outside world. Oh, that's true. Then, Vlad, who had seen with his own eyes what was going on in the outside world, grinned, so cool. Yeah, haha. What Vlad can see, of course others can see, on the side of the boat, Enel smiled, it has been completely eliminated. Has been completely eliminated, the country named Wano-Kuni. What appeared in front of everyone in the different dimension was fog. The fog that covered the sky had already enveloped everything, and in an instant, the sunny weather turned into a pregnant season where nothing could be seen. Of course, you can still see it. Through the fog, you can also see what's underneath. After all, what's behind is so huge and majestic, it's a huge pothole. It is extremely huge. I don't know how far it extends. It is extremely huge. If it is filled with seawater, it may already be called an ocean. In fact, there is indeed a huge amount of seawater rushing towards the inside of this big pit, and this big pit will soon disappear under the irrigation of seawater. The place where this big pit was originally located was an island, a huge island. The country established on this island is called Wano-Kuni, an ancient country with a long history. The countries around Wano-Kuni are going to be out of luck. Vlad said, I suddenly feel a little sorry. This is a matter of course. An explosion of this scale will directly wipe out a huge island. Although it cannot be felt in the different dimension, I also know that this explosion must be a strong vibration and horrible shock. Earthquakes, tsunamis, these are the terrifying tests that the surrounding islands are and will face. Well. Suddenly, Vlad raised his head in surprise. In the sky, a black shadow began to slowly descend. Just kidding. Vlad frowned. Chapter 822 Windfall. As if joking, in the sky, the guy in the black robe began to land slowly. Although the crown on his head had already flown to nowhere, but this guy was the I Am. Not bad, deep. At the center of the explosion of dynamite rock, Comrade Yim has long since been wiped out. This guy. Vlad was a little surprised. Is it open? Does GM not even consider the title? Where is the balance of the game reflected? It is really unimaginable that in an explosion of this scale, this guy did not suffer any major damage. Change your position. If Vlad himself is at the center of the explosion like I am, then even if he is fully prepared, all the defensive abilities are used, the dragon is fully activated, and the Jurong mode is turned on. Covered with hockey, coupled with Tai Chi's armor, and then covered dozens of walls with real flames. Even so, of course, the result will not be very good. The serious injury is just the beginning. Just kidding, Wano-Kuni is not inferior to Alabasta in size. I dare not think that Vlad is a man after all, not a god. So, is this guy a god? Vlad couldn't help but think so. Outside, because of a space, Vlad couldn't hear Lord Yimu's breathing, and he was not as calm as before. Damn it. Im's voice was cold and stern. Ferdinand Vlad. A tough man indeed. Looks like I can't sleep peacefully until I get rid of him. You can sleep peacefully without worrying about it. If there is something to worry about, it is easy to have nightmares when sleeping. Cuckoo cuckoo. A loud voice sounded, and I Am rubbed his stomach. I am so hungry, I'm exhausted. I Am has the strength of the bug level, but even a bug must obey the basic law. The stronger the power, the stronger the physical strength that needs to be consumed. In order to fight the previous big explosion, Yimu's abilities were fully activated, and an incomparably thick invisible force shrouded his side, like an indestructible ball. Then, he was sent to the universe. The explosion was so amazing that it was difficult for even I Am to grasp, but it was already very annoying to fly into space without taking any damage. Fortunately, there is a problem with the space setting of this world. It is quite easy to come back. Don't worry about becoming a satellite and giving up thinking. Yawn. A series of belly growls followed by a big yawn. So sleepy. I am said so. It's really miserable. The dignified Dragon King, who was teased all the time, suffered another wave of bombings, and now ends up starving and sleepy. Is it called the Fire Dragon Kingdom? I am muttered to himself. I remember. The tragedy of 800 years ago will never be repeated. Whoosh. I am rushed to the sky. Until then, it's better to fill up your stomach and get a good night's sleep. Dash 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 dash. Tisk, trouble. Even though he couldn't hear what I am was talking about, Vlad still knew that he was in big trouble. The bomb just didn't kill Boss I am. After that, you don't have to think about it. Of course this guy will come to trouble him. Yes, from the beginning, he said that he would protect his world by himself, and then he was bombarded by himself, so a fool would just give up like this, right? Vlad had a headache. Before today, he thought he was already the best person in the world. Although he couldn't beat the world, he was finally the best in the world, right? As a result, Kaido's berserk really didn't lose the title of the strongest creature. Vlad was willing to be defeated. Of course, it won't take long for this guy to die directly, and Vlad didn't care too much. Then another stronger guy came out, and he was an appointed enemy. He wanted to blow up him but he didn't do it, which would be too troublesome. Whether it is power or strength, Vlad feels very tired, just like when he left the Big Mom pirate group. The gap between himself and his opponent is a bit big. What's more troublesome is that the current Vlad is not as alone as in the past. He already has his own territory. Alas. Vlad sighed. Captain, what do you do next? It was at this time that Enel suddenly asked. One step at a time, one step at a time. Vlad said casually. No, Captain, I mean. Enel's expression was not friendly. These Marines, are you going to kill them? Quote. Atmosphere cooled down in an instant. Pirates and Marine are naturally opposing camps. From the normal pirate concept, for Marine, of course, it is to kill as much as you come. That's exactly what we want to do now. Chaton Tokikake sneered that he didn't have a good impression of pirates. Just a few of you. The maid sneered. Marine's trip this time was not simply explained by the heavy losses. Tens of thousands of Marine elites were wiped out, and the only ones who were still alive were a few senior officers above Vice Admiral. Stop it, idiots. Vlad said angrily, don't be so unfriendly to our guests. Captain. Enel frowned, a little puzzled. Well, we were enemies before, maybe not after that. Vlad said so. Don't think about it. Chaton Tokikake disdainfully said, Marine and pirates are always enemies. Remember your flag, friends. Vlad laughed. Fire Dragon, even. Suru Vice Admiral opened the mouth and said, but not as angry as Chaton Tokikake, Marine and pirates are enemies after all. Haha, don't worry, I never expected us to fight side by side. Vlad blinked. As Fujitora Admiral said before, as long as we have a common enemy, that's totally enough, right? Quote. Suru Vice Admiral was silent, then, she said, Marine, always fight only for justice. Yeah. Vlad grinned, I'll take it to heart. Captain. Lying on the bow, the chef said, if you don't fight now, then I think there is someone you should meet. What? Vlad turned back, a little surprised. Although the battle was over by the time I came over so it didn't help much, but... Chef said, Sakata seems to have helped a lot when he fought with the general. Oh. Vlad replied, so here. Of course. Chef nodded, the other party seems to have a strange kindness towards us. For the specifics, please judge for yourself. My concubine is going to join the Fire Dragon Pirates. That was the first thing Vlad said to him after seeing the guy the chef said. What a surprise. Chapter 824, the second one. Is it okay to send it here? In the New World, on an unnamed island, an air door suddenly opened, and several people in justice coats walked out of the door, led by a man in a purple kimono, Marine Headquarters Admiral, codenamed Fujitora. Behind the door, inside the door, Vlad smiled leisurely. If you send it further, you will go to the Fire Dragon Kingdom. Of course, if you want to be my guests, I am also very welcome. It hasn't been long since the war in Wano-kuni, the news hasn't spread to the sea, the biggest wind and waves haven't been stirred up, and Vlad doesn't care too much. Even now there is still an I am waiting. Looking at him, he didn't feel too nervous. After all, nervousness doesn't seem to be of any use. It will come sooner or later, just be prepared. Now, after finding an island, of course, they can't let Marine follow them back to the Fire Dragon Kingdom. Even if Vlad wanted to, of course Marine wouldn't. It was like, don't be silly, Fire Dragon. Suru Vice Admiral put his arms around his chest with a cold expression, showing no gratitude to his savior. We are not your guests. Understood. Vlad gave an okay gesture. We are enemies. Of course Marine and pirates are enemies. Naturally, there is nothing to say. Then say goodbye. Vlad smiled. See you next time, ha. I'm judging the relationship between the enemy and ourselves. Cut. Chaton Tokikake is very upset. His life was saved by a pirate. For Marine who upholds justice, it is a shame. However, such a life-saving grace cannot be denied. I really don't know what to show. If one has a good expression, then snort coldly. Goodbye. With a wave of his hand, Diedrich closed the air door, and Vlad disappeared directly in front of Marine. Quote. Marines who stayed on the island fell into a strange silence immediately after Vlad left. Grandma Crane. Fujitora scratched his head and broke the silence with embarrassment. Did we know something we shouldn't know? Yes. As soon as Vlad left, Chaton Tokikake's tense face immediately loosened, and his hippie smile looked like a hooligan. Haha, is that guy named I am really the top leader of the government? Call. A slow sigh of relief. Suru Vice Admiral's thoughts were of course fluctuating. I can't confirm it, I can only say that it is very likely. Of course, I think we should be able to confirm it soon. Ha ha ha, that one is in trouble. Chaton Tokikake laughed. As subordinates we are offending the Supreme King, right? It's a wonderful feeling. The world government is an organization that is above all countries in the world, so even the kings of the various alliance countries have a respectful attitude in front of them, and it is not qualified to want to be their king. For example, they are senior military officials in democratic countries, and their status is still higher than that of the autonomous prefectures below. But I is different. If this guy is really the king of Tenryubito, it will be different. For the same example, it is equivalent to the fact that this democratic country suddenly has a dictatorial emperor. In theory, this guy they are the supreme beings in this country, they are equivalent to wage earners. In big trouble. Chaton Tokikake said, why didn't we just quit Marine? Let's be a pirate. In this way, we should be able to avoid retaliation from the top, right? What nonsense. Behind, Momosugi knocked Chaton Tokikake on the head with the scabbard, looking very annoyed. Tokikake, remember your identity. Ha ha ha, just kidding. Chaton Tokikake laughed. Just kidding, don't be so serious, Gion-chan, I am very firm in my pursuit of justice. Just. He said, what's going to happen after that? I'm honestly at a loss. Quote. Then there was another silence. Tokikake, don't make me laugh, you're not a kid anymore. Suru Vice Admiral broke the silence. Don't forget what Zephyr taught you. What to do, judge for yourself. Ha ha ha. Tokikake scratched his head. Blue. It was at this time that the phone worm suddenly rang from inside Suru Vice Admiral's clothes. Looks like. Taking the phone bug out of his pocket, Suru Vice Admiral said, "The first thing to consider has come." She handed out the phone bug. "Who will answer?" "Ha ha." Chatan Tokikake looked up at the sky. "Oh yo." Fujitora covered her stomach with sweat. "Looks like I lost my stomach yesterday." Sister Crane. Mamasagi looked at the two unmotivated men and said with disdain, "It's up to you." Click. Nodding, Suru Vice Admiral answered the phone. "Where will Marine and the government go from here? This call may be a new starting point. Dash 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 dash." Other half, on the sea not far from the original Wano-kuni, a pirate ship was moving slowly. "Yeah, I thought I was going to die." At the stern of the boat, the man with his hand on the straw hat above his head seemed to have some lingering fears. What a terrible explosion. Fortunately, the boat that Frankie built is quite powerful. Goo ha 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 ha. I have to thank you this time. Straw Hat. Behind him, the man in the black coat laughed loudly. "If it's a little later, it will only be wiped out with the explosion." Don't get me wrong. The green-haired swordsman on the side was not friendly. "You came to our ship without authorization. We are not friends." "Hey, don't be so determined, Roranoa. Maybe we really have a chance to cooperate." Crocodile, who had a big back and a scar on his face, said with a cigar in his mouth. He was really lucky. When he faced Enel before, he knew that he couldn't win, so he chose to retreat. By chance, he ran to the Straw Hats. On the boat, and more coincidentally, after seeing the huge ocean floating in the sky, the Straw Hats were so frightened that they decided to run away. It didn't take long for them to wait, and the earth-shattering explosion happened like this, and Wano-kuni played directly, which is really very lucky for Crocodile. Goo ha ha ha, the dragon pirates are only one step away from the location of One Piece King of Pirates. Crocodile said, "Straw Hat, if you want to be the One Piece King of Pirates, you can't beat the dragon, or do you think you can beat the dragon pirates with just a few of you? It means, let's cooperate." The Straw Hat turned his head and opened his mouth. Chapter 825 Shock the Sea. The news that Wano-kuni was wiped out is of course impossible to hide. After all, such a big movement, several surrounding countries have been devastated. First, the earthquake, and then the tsunami that swept the entire island, even the daring boss. The curious babies who hid around Wano-kuni and wanted to see the final result of the battle between the Fire Dragon Pirates and the Beast Pirates also destroyed most of them in such a big tsunami. So, of course, the whole news of Wano-kuni's route was the quickest to pass through the mouths of these surviving guys. They didn't know exactly what happened in the first battle, but at the end, they could see clearly that they flew directly into the sky, towards the ocean covered by Wano-kuni, and the huge explosion that ended everything. The time has not come to the second day, and the whole sea has been turned upside down. The Fire Dragon Pirates and the Beast Pirates were both destroyed. Such conjectures have been circulated. After all, no one knows what the outcome of the battle will be, and the Dragon Pirates, which were trusted before the war began and were believed to be the victors of the war, did not appear after landing in Wano-kuni. However, no one knows whether the huge fireball that has risen into the sky has been directly turned into ashes. The Fire Dragon Pirates are very strong. There are not many people who know about this. It would be a joke if the Fire Dragon Pirates who could defeat the Big Mom Pirates were not strong. It was so amazing that the entire Wano-kuni was destroyed, and the surrounding sea area was also patronized by shock waves. Such power is definitely not human, and definitely not a pirate group that can resist. It's not just the Beast Pirates. Perhaps, the Fire Dragon Pirates and its many affiliated pirates have all been completely destroyed in this earth-shattering explosion in Wano-kuni. This is not a unique idea of one person. Dash 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 dash. So, I was inexplicably arranged to be clear. The huge pirate ship was flying above the sky. Vlad was holding a newspaper in his hand, looking a little indignant, holding a bowl of shaved ice in his hand. Hey, these guys have no confidence in me at all. Is Lao Tzu a person who kneels down so easily? Hum hum ha 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 ha. The opposite side, the big bird in a neat suit smiled and said, the public is always blind. How many guys on the sea expect you to be the new One Piece, king of pirates? Then I hope you will be blasted into scum by the explosion of Wano-kuni. There are 10 times as many people. No, 100 times. 1,000 times. Hello. Vlad looked a little speechless. I'm so hateful. Don't play stupid, Vlad. Big Bird, of course, is the president of the World Economic Society, the world's first-class paparazzi and media person. Big news. Big Bird said with a smile, there is only one throne on the throne, and there are as many guys as you want to sit on, and there is no doubt that you are the guy closest to the throne. Isn't this a matter of course? I want to put you the guy who pulls off the horses all over the sea. So, of course the guy who treated me maliciously would subconsciously consider my whereabouts from the worst angle. Vlad dug a spoonful of smoothie into his mouth and twitched the corners of his mouth. Really, I can't beat me, so I can only hope that I will die. Tisk, there are enough ugly guys. Ha 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 ha, the sea has always been like this. Morgans laughed. Heroes are only a minority after all. And Wong is a minority among the minority. Vlad. This big bird suddenly became excited, very high-spirited. You have the potential to be a king. Hi, I got it, got it. Vlad waved his hand. Of course. Haha, but although I have known such a thing for a long time, after knowing what you did today. Morgan smiled and said, it's natural to be surprised. You did a great job. Vlad, the most powerful creature in the world, Kaido, who is known to be invincible in Heads Up, was actually defeated by you, haha. Now there are only 4 emperors left. The next redhead. Vlad, one last step to the throne. It will be done soon. Morgan seemed to be more excited than Vlad. Hum hum ha 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 ha. Morgan seemed to be more excited than Vlad, the only king. This is about to appear. Come on. Vlad licked the spoon and said casually, I'm in big trouble now. Is that so? Morgan smiled gloomily, but you'll get it done, right? Well. Putting the glass of shaved ice upside down and pouring the remaining ice water into his mouth, Vlad nodded, of course, there is nothing that can stop me. Ha 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 ha. Morgans laughed. Yeah, of course. Well, Vlad, I'll pass on the news of your victory over Kaido right away, but you have to be mentally prepared. This time, the government will never again. I can't stand you anymore. Yes, the government is a big trouble. Vlad put the cup aside and said, in terms of strength, it is undoubtedly crushing us. Tisk, the first road sign is in their hands. So. Morgans pressed the brim on his head. Vlad, what are you going to do? Hey, there's a very interesting thing. Vlad smiled, I think you're very interested. Huh. Morgans was a little confused. Definitely the biggest secret in the world, of course you don't know, huh, the government treats everyone like monkeys. Vlad smiled, it's really interesting. Oh. Morgans' eyes lit up. As we all know, this man is the #1 paparazzi in the world. He wants to make big news. He can't care less about the world's secrets. Of course, he can't let Vlad say that. What a joking little secret. But you have to be prepared. Vlad said this. Vivi squinted and squinted at Morgans and smiled. Once this news is released, you will be targeted by the government immediately, and there is a high probability that you will be killed directly. HMHH. Don't be stupid, Vlad. Morgans took out a video phone bug, a small notebook, and a pen. Is there anything happier than revealing the secrets of this world and witnessing the development of this world? Really? Vlad grinned, then listen carefully. In the past 800 years, the most astonishing news may be this, spread it well. Let the whole world be shaken. 826 Tit for tat. Holy Land, Mariajoy, the center of power in the world, a place that most of the world's civilians yearn for, a place of reverence, has always been a very solemn place. After all, this is not only the office of the government, but also the gathering place of Tenryubito, those a guy who has high self-esteem and has always only regarded himself as a god, but it is absolutely intolerable for someone to mess around in his own territory. It doesn't matter what they do, it's their normal state to do whatever they want, but this is only their privilege, and no one is allowed to offend them in front of them, even if it's just a little. The so-called gods probably refer to such people. However, in the middle of the night, the tranquility of the Holy Land was broken. Get out of the way. Wearing a large justice cloak and a marine cap on his head, the white suit he wears is bulged high by the majestic muscles, and he has a stubby beard. There are obvious frostbite scars on his face. The man with a cigar strode towards the gate of Panchung City. Even if it was the Holy Land and the guards of the world government who were blocking him, he didn't care at all. He pushed all those who dared to stand in front of him with a single push. Open. Stop joking with Lao Su. Go away for Lao Su. Marshal Akainu, please don't go forward. The world government staff in black suits were covered in cold sweat, and Vivi's body was trembling. Gorosei, 5 elders have gone to bed. If there is anything important, please come back tomorrow. You did not inform the government that going to the Holy Land is already a violation of discipline. Quote. Sleep. Do you still want to prevaricate it now? Marine Headquarters Marshal Akainu raised his head. Vivi, his forehead was full of blue veins. Do you really think Lao Su is a fool? Boom. Lifting his foot, the man in black who was in front of him was kicked and slammed into the wall behind him. Please stop your actions. There were circles of men in black, and they said loudly, after all, the opposite is the Marshal of the Marine Headquarters, and his status within the government is only under the Commander-in-Chief of Gorosei, 5 elders and the entire army. Even, because of the direct command of Marine, such an increase is even greater. That is to say, even if they kill these guys, the government may not trouble him. The bottom cannon fodder is so powerless. Marshal Akainu, your behavior can already be considered illegal invasion. Please stop your behavior immediately. Stop getting in the way. The corner of his mouth twitched. Akainu didn't care. His right arm had turned into lava, the pungent sulfur smell began to spread, and the black smoke began to rise and float toward the sky. If you want to die. Akainu waved his fist, just stand in front of you. PFF'd. And then the flames erupted, and the huge magma fist was sprayed out from Akainu's hand, and slammed directly towards the gate of Panchung in front. Have you started? Hey! Flash away. Be careful. Marshal Akainu, what the hell are you doing? After all, people still want to live, and there are probably not many who really want to die. When Akainu punched, the people in black who stood in front of them immediately hurriedly avoided, and then all kinds of scolding and questioning. Boom. The tall gate of Panguchung suddenly shattered. Akainu's magma fist not only possesses high temperature and toxins, but the impact of a volcanic eruption is also extremely powerful. A huge gap has suddenly appeared below Panguchung, dark red. The lava splashed on the white wall, as conspicuous as a puddle of ketchup on the white shirt. Cut. A cold snort, Akainu strode forward. Of course, the surrounding magma didn't have any blocking effect on him, and he stepped directly into the ancient city of Pan. Akainu. Without taking 2 steps, the glasses Gorosei, 5 elders with the knife in their hands at all times fell from the sky in front of them, sweat on their foreheads, and seemed to be very nervous. You bastard. What the hell are you doing? Are you going to rebel? The Gorosei, 5 elders were quite worried. After all, the Lord had just fallen asleep, and if he woke him up before he was full, Akainu would be dead. Then, things really can't be undone. What am I doing? Akainu's voice was equally loud. That's what I want to ask you guys. What the hell are you doing? What's going on with IM? What's up with the Wano Kuni explosion? Those are all lies of the Fire Dragon pirates. It's a conspiracy of unknown forces. Knife-wielding Gorosei, 5 elders said angrily. I remember explaining it clearly on the phone. IM has indeed appeared in front of Marine, and also admitted his identity in front of Marine, but such a verbal admission is actually limited in credibility. The ghost knows if this person is a hidden master. It appeared to divide the government Marine. After all, if it was really the head of the government, it would be too reckless to directly attack Marine indiscriminately. So, of course, the government's justification for this incident is like this. After all, neither Marine nor the pirates can produce evidence of the real existence of Lord Yimu. Even within Tenryubito, the existence of Lord Yimu is just a rumor. And only Tenryubito in high positions like them have the right to know what the world really is. As for the explosive rock, it is even simpler. Since such a powerful guy has already come out, it is not incomprehensible that the unknown force will have the explosive rock, right? However, Akainu doesn't seem to be that good at fooling around. Just one phone call to get rid of all ties. Akainu said angrily, do you think everyone is a fool? Such a guy doesn't pay any attention to the government's intelligence department. I think it's because he was originally a member of the government. Also, about Wano-kuni, I won't talk about the union of Marine and Kaido. Now such an insult to Marine's justice has become a trivial matter, huh? Akainu said angrily, so, please explain to me why that amount of dynamite rock appeared in Wano-kuni. I didn't know the dragon pirates had such a reserve. Isn't this kind of thing known just by thinking about it? Knife-wielding Gorosei, 5 elders said loudly, the fire dragon pirates own a ship like that, wouldn't it be easy to steal it? Really? Akainu laughed in anger. Dynamite rock is a forbidden item that is absolutely not allowed to be used in war, but I didn't receive the news that the storage there was stolen again. Do I still have to tell you about the government? Knife-wielding Gorosei, 5 elders said dismissively, who do you think you are? Akainu. Is Hualong a fool? If there is such a reserve of explosive rocks, why do you want to fight the beasts? Can't you just blow them up? Don't think of everyone as a fool. Also, it doesn't matter if you don't tell me. Akainu took out a newspaper and pointed it directly at the Gorosei, 5 elders, face. Then, you have to think about the world and explain it to the world. You have to wipe your ass clean. What? Before Akainu's rudeness could be considered, the knife-wielding Gorosei, 5 elders spread out the newspaper. Fire Dragon this guy. Chapter 827 World Secret. What Akainu threw to the Gorosei, 5 elders was a newspaper, which was printed overnight and spread all over the world immediately. Morgans used all human and material resources, and all the branches all over the world stopped at the same time. Just to be able to spread this news all over the world in the fastest time. In fact, he did it. The Wano-kuni incident was the day before, the connection with Vlad happened during the day, and then, just at night, the news had spread all over the world. Morgans. Wielding Gorosei, 5 elders gnashing their teeth. After the swearing, talk about it. Akainu bluntly said, Gorosei, 5 elders, now Marine needs an explanation. Who is that man in black? How did the dynamite rock in Hualong's hand come from? What the hell is the government doing? Akainu. Knife-wielding Gorosei, 5 elders looked at Akainu with a cold look in their eyes. Quarrel between Martial Marine and the Gorosei, 5 elders in Mariajoy is of course unknown, and the result is unknown at present. Now, the eyes of the whole sea are frightened by the newspapers scattered from the sky that night. For a moment, the world was silent for it. After all, the news that broke out in the newspapers that night was really amazing. Maybe when Gold Roger arrived at Laugh Tale, conquered the Great Root, and was crowned One Piece King of Pirates, there was no such shock. 3 pieces of news. There are about 3 pieces of news recorded in this newspaper. Each of the 3 pieces of news is more shocking than the other. Together, it is news that can shock everyone's eyes. Kaido still lost. As expected, he is still alive and well. In a certain sea area in the New World, a huge sea ship rides the wind and waves, and the red-haired man leans on the side of the ship and sighs, it's really amazing. That fire dragon guy. Haha, in this case, the four emperors have completely collapsed, right? With a cigarette in his mouth, the gray-haired Ben Beckman blew out a smoke ring and said casually, "After all, it's just us and the fire dragon left. It's too funny to be called the four emperors, isn't it? Ha ha ha, it's going to be troublesome now." Holding a big chicken leg in his hand, the fat man laughed and said, "Will we be the next target of fire dragon? We beat Charlotte Linlin and Kaido in a row, we are the last, right?" "No." Beckman shook his head. "We don't have any signposts. Charlotte Linlin's piece, Kaido's piece, should already be in his hands. And add a piece of the fur tribe." The red-haired Shanks, who had followed Captain Roger to the fur tribe's territory more than 20 years ago, added, "Haha, that guy is only missing the last sign." Call. Fatty Raikalu sighed, "That means, Luffy has no chance." "Not necessarily." Beckman shook his head. "If there is no accident, the last piece of road sign is in the hands of the government, and it is not easy for Fire Dragon to get this piece. Hope Luffy and the others seize the opportunity." Fatty laughed. "Time is running out." "Shanks," Beckman said sternly, following news. He was referring to the next two messages in the newspaper. That. Turning around, looking at the end of the sea, "Get ready, maybe. An unprecedented war is coming. Even we cannot escape. Dash 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 dash. IMM. The fact that the Fire Dragon pirates defeated the 100 Beasts pirates is of course extremely amazing, but there are even more amazing things, and it is certainly not the only thing that can make Morgans make such a big move. From all over the sea, after opening the newspaper, everyone will be amazed by the results of the war between the Fire Dragon pirates and the Beast pirates, and then lament that the winner is the Fire Dragon pirates, and the man Vlad the Fire Dragon really did not. It's so easy to die. And now it's still alive and kicking, living happily, and the Beast pirates have been completely finished. Of course, the outcome of the war is beyond doubt. The future One Piece King of Pirates, for Vlad, seems to have begun to call further. Then, of course, the latter information was also noticed. Who is this guy? Wearing a black robe, the slender guy is so generously exposed in front of everyone, although it is hand-painted. The King of Tenryubito. Are you kidding me? Those Tenryubito, aren't they descendants of the Creator? They are descendants of the 20 kings who created the world. Where did such a character come from? There are those who are curious. What? There's a dictator at the head of the government. A being on top of the Gorosei, 5 elders. King of the world. Funny, right? How could such a thing happen? It is not just one person who has such a reaction. The world government is a huge organization composed of more than 170 member countries. In theory, even the highest council of the government, the highest Gorosei, 5 elders of Tenryubito, can, but it should be on behalf of these countries to manage government affairs. The government, a democratic government, should have been like this. Is it true? What the hell is the government doing? It wasn't just the heroes of the sea who were shocked, but more, the high-level officials of the countries that joined the government, who originally joined, but suddenly said that there was another guy who was above everything else who was engaged in dictatorship. Who can bear this? Of course, some people are angry, and naturally some people are happy. The man with the conspicuous tattoo on his face hung up the phone bug with an unconcealed smile on his face. What did Mr. Vlad say? Behind him, the handsome man with blonde hair laughed. Is everything in the newspaper true? Ah. The Supreme Commander of the Revolutionary Army, with a smile on his face, nodded and said, although it is unimaginable, this is indeed a fact. Above the world government, there is indeed such a Sir Yim, who is above everything. Quote. This is a huge help for our revolution. The Chief of Staff of the Revolutionary Army, Mr. Saab said, if only it can be proved that he exists. That's right. Dragon took the newspaper on the side, shook it, and said, it seems that the relationship between the government and Marine is not very good now. Give General Wano Kuni dynamite rock, want to simply give Mr. Vlad and the beasts, even including Marine blown up. Ha ha ha, if this matter is really confirmed, the government will be finished. Get ready, Sabo-kun, the revolution is about to enter the next stage. Next, I am afraid it will be a total war. Maybe, Marine will be a breakthrough. Should go have a chat with that stubborn old man. The last two news in the newspaper are, of course, the origin of the Wano-kuni explosion, and the fact that Lord Im exists. Chapter 828 Limit. Tisk, people who are not afraid of death are really everywhere. Cursed a little in disgust, Vlad twitched the corners of his mouth. Do you still want to run? Front of him, there is a huge pirate ship floating, not his Platinum D-Drag, but another pirate ship. The only known flying pirate ship in the world is Vlad D-Drag, so, of course, this ship did not fly into the sky with its own power. In fact, if this ship also had a ship spirit, of course, he would shout out loudly, I don't want to fly at all, such a thing. This ship was of course taken to the sky by Vlad using the ability of the fluttering fruit. Don't. Leave us alone. I was wrong, please bypass us this time. On the big boat, the pirates were shouting and shouting, as if they were afraid. Facts have proved that there are as many idiots on the sea as there are, and not everyone can see the wind and judge the situation. Obviously, it is only a short time before Morgan's newspaper has officially spread, the Fire Dragon pirates as well as the news that the Beast pirates were bombed to death in Wano-kuni together. There are many rational people who are waiting for the follow-up development with a wait-and-see attitude. However, there are a lot of people who think that Vlad is finished with a lack of brains. Some guys have already united and launched an attack on the Fire Dragon Kingdom without knowing the situation at all. It is no wonder, after all, the explosion in Wano-kuni was really amazing, and the entire Wano-kuni was completely destroyed. Who would have thought such a terrifying explosion? The Fire Dragon pirates did not have any casualties. The cadres of the Fire Dragon pirates and the Fire Dragon fleet formed by the affiliated pirates were all taken away, and the Fire Dragon Kingdom completely lost its guards. Of course, even so, generally speaking, no one would risk their lives to attack. After all, everyone knows that the Fire Dragon pirates are strong, and Kaido is not likely to be an opponent. But this kind of explosion is different. The Fire Dragon pirates are likely to be finished, okay. It's scary, so, there are a dozen or so pirates that rushed to the Fire Dragon Kingdom. Of course, it didn't rage much, that is, when they just landed, the newspapers that fell from the sky quickly scared them out of their fears. This is really a sudden surprise, isn't it? What does it mean when the Fire Dragon is still alive and kicking in an interview? Then, of course, although it didn't have any impact, Vlad really had no reason to let these guys go. Okay. Vlad waved his hand, just die like this. Let me vent a little bit of the anger I got from that old man before. Thank you. Crack. A snap of fingers. Boom. In the sky, the huge pirate ship suddenly twisted, and then shrank toward the middle, instantly turning into a huge sphere, and blood continuously infiltrated from it. Woo, that's ugly. With a sigh of relief, he sank the ball into the bottom of the sea, and Vlad flapped his wings and flew towards Thassa Island with a self-deprecating look. Although it looks like he has no scruples on the surface, he is actually a little worried in his heart. After all, an imam suddenly appeared, which was completely unexpected before. Such a powerful guy has the power in his hands. The first strong, and he is the enemy. I have to say, it is quite exciting. Want to be stronger? Vlad thought so. It's not good to be stronger and stronger. If you want to become One Piece, King of Pirates, you can't be stronger than the same. Doctor. Instead of returning directly to the base camp, Vlad left the sea and came to an island hidden on the seabed, which is the island where the research team of the Fire Dragon Pirates is located. It is here that the D-series robots are continuously produced. Now it is already the most important arsenal of the Fire Dragon Pirates. Countless dragon tooth soldiers, plus a large number of chimeras, are the strongest guards here. Of course, Vlad didn't need to be interrogated when he came over. He went on a rampage and quickly rushed into a certain laboratory. 2 men and a monkey were doing experiments with their backs to him. Even his loud shouting didn't make the 3 guys turn back, but it was quite powerful. Really? Vlad looked a little helpless. 1 peso was enough, and after adding Vegapunk and Judge, multiplying the depression level by 3, it was really difficult for him. Captain. I don't know how long I waited. When Vlad was sitting in the corner and was about to fall asleep, a very calm man's voice finally sounded in his ears, as if he didn't care about his arrival at all. Oh, it's over. Standing up swayingly, Vlad yawned and wiped the corners of his eyes. I've been waiting for a long time. Cut. With a very unhappy snort, Judge, who has worked conscientiously for the Fire Dragon Pirates for a long time, but still failed to return to the human body as he wished, turned his head and ran to eat bananas on his own. Doctor, I want to ask you something. Vegapunk, whose dark circles had grown so heavy as if his eyes were in 2 black holes, and said so. Okay. Vegapunk nodded. I think you should ask me too. Me too. Paso calmly said. Yeah. Vlad nodded. There was no need to find a special place. The island was very safe, and the laboratory was very secluded. Except for the occasional sound of Judge who was eating bananas, there was no other noise at all. The 3 of them sat on the floor. Tell me, Doctor. Vlad looked Vegapunk in the eye. That I am, what the hell is going on? What's the matter? Vegapunk grinned. Isho, your question confuses me. Vlad said casually, that means, I think you know the origin of that EPUB. And, more importantly, why is that guy so strong? This is not scientific at all. Why is it so strong? No matter how much he exercises, Vlad will not become stronger, nor will his physical strength improve significantly. He has reached a limit, the limit of the human body, but why is that guy I am so strong? Overwhelmingly strong. He's also a transformation person like Kaido. Vlad couldn't help but ask. I am, did you meet him? I thought you'd ask me about Kaido. Vegapunk looked a little emotional. It's a long-lost name. I really don't want to think of this guy's name if I can. Sure enough, I know it. There isn't any evidence that Vegapunk knew I am, but Vlad just knew that they knew each other. Maybe it was intuition. Vlad smiled. Then tell me, that guy, what happened to him? How can he go beyond the limits of the human body? I am. Vegapunk put it this way. If you talk about it, it's probably a person who has lived for a long, long time. Chapter 829 Guess. Speaking of Iam's words, Vegapunk said with some emotion, the first thing that came to mind was that guy, who seems to have lived for a long time. A long time. Vlad was not surprised. When Doflamingo told him about the legend about Iam that was circulating inside Tenryubito, he had clearly mentioned that this guy seemed to have been leading Tenryubito for a long, long time. Tenryubito was not a character that existed in Tenryubito's day. If Iam is not a code name that can be inherited, then, of course, this guy who really exists has lived for a long time. How long is that? Vlad asked curiously. Although the legend of Tenryubito is not groundless, it can only be regarded as speculation after all, and the real data is more convincing. Probably. Vegapunk gave a grim smile. That's a little bit older than the government. Oh tilde. Vlad was beaming. That's amazing. Does that mean he is the living fossil of the world? Haha, if you want to know what happened in the blank 100 years, you can ask him directly, right? Of course you can. Vegapunk smiled and nodded. Of course, the price might be to be blown to pieces by him. Tisk, yes, too. Vlad nodded approvingly. That boss is not very good-tempered. Such a long lifespan. Paso, a little dumbfounded, said, is he also an android? Like Kaido. It's not really a man-made man or anything, but of course he's not really a normal person. Vegapunk said so. Of course it is. How can a normal person live to be 800 years old? Just kidding. Even if the body in this world is generally strong and the disease rate is low, even if there is no illness and no disaster, being over 100 years old is already the limit. 800 years old. Are you kidding me? Then what's going on? Vlad asked. This question is very important to him. If there is no accident, that guy I am will be his last enemy. The trouble is, the enemy's strength is far stronger than him. There is no chance of winning, but if you can know the secret of I am, let alone copying his extraordinary path, at least you can have a general grasp of his abilities, and you will be a little relieved after a real fight. What has he experienced? Not only has his lifespan surpassed the horizon, but his body's abilities are also extraordinary. No, Fire Dragon, you are wrong. Vegapunk shook his head. Not in that order. Huh. Vlad looked surprised. What do you mean? It means. Passo said bluntly, it is the body that breaks the limit first, and then has an extraordinary lifespan. Yeah. Vlad was taken aback. Or rather, the two are one and the same in and of themselves, and the long lifespan itself is a feature of the body's transcendence. Vegapunk said, is that what it means? Then. Vlad grinned widely, what is it that makes Im's body go beyond the limit? Is it biological genetic technology like Kaido's boss? Or is it because of something else? It wasn't just Vlad who was curious. Passo's eyes were also shining brightly. Even Judge, who was hiding and eating bananas silently, unknowingly took a few steps closer. Stuffed into the nostrils. This one. Vegapunk smiled meaningfully, and he replied. I don't know. Known as the smartest person in the world, Dr. Vegapunk, who has 500 years of terrifying technology ahead of the world, spread his hands, and indeed answered. What? Vlad was fascinated, you don't even know the doctor. Of course not. Vegapunk looked righteous, I just deduced the existence of that guy I am, and I haven't really met him. Why do I know how he did such a thing? Is that so? Vlad is a little disappointed, is Vegapunk the only clue? What he doesn't know, I am afraid that the whole world except I am himself is only known to the Gorosei, 5 elders. Of course, Vlad cannot ask the Gorosei, 5 elders. However, Vegapunk is suddenly a little naughty-isho, although there is no actual evidence, I have a guess about his change. Quote. Vlad was speechless, Doctor, do we have to breathe like this when we talk? Ha ha ha, sorry. Vegapunk said insincerely, because I don't talk to people for too long, I will subconsciously say a few more words. So. Vlad looked expectantly, Doctor, what is that conjecture? Maybe you can achieve something like this too. Vegapunk's words surprised Vlad. How to say? Vlad was a little anxious. Where are the limits of the human body? Vegapunk looked at Vlad, resilience, vitality, physical strength, endurance, intelligence, longevity, strength, speed. What determines these? A cell. Vlad looked uncertain. The human body is composed of cells, so of course, these things will be restricted by cells. It's true, to a large extent, the limits of human cells, the structure, and the degree of use are the predicaments that restrict the human body's upward breakthrough. Of course, this is determined by what is inscribed in the genes. Vegapunk nodded. So. Vlad said, the method is genetic modification. Is this any different from Kaido? If the technology is mature, Vlad wouldn't mind trying it, but obviously Vegapunk can't make a perfect experimental body yet. He doesn't want to explode in the middle of the battle like Kaido. No. Vegapunk shook his head. Technology can't do this right now, but there's a way to do it without technology. Oh. Vlad raised his eyebrows, like. That's why I said maybe you can do something like this. Vegapunk opened his mouth. Fire Dragon, you heard. Isn't old surgery? Well. Vlad was stunned for a moment, then immediately came back to his senses. Doctor, you mean the ageless operation of the fruit of surgery? I don't know if the fruit of surgery can make people live forever. However, this devil fruit has been developed to a very high level, and it is indeed capable of interfering with the human body's cells and even genes at the deepest level of the human body, adjusting, and making the most radical surgery. This is Vegapunk's conjecture. Chapter 830 Someone's Phone. It is quite possible to guess that the power of the fruit of surgery is indeed amazing. When Luo was young, he could use the fruit of surgery to cure the incurable disease he suffered from. Now Luo Sushui is able to use his body to remove the internal organs. The gamma knife that achieves fragments, of course, is quite possible to interfere with the human body at a deeper level, and the enhanced transformation at the genetic level may really not be impossible. X23 US. Com updates fastest. Of course, to do this kind of strengthening requires the ability to have super control power and the same strong physical support, and, of course, it is impossible to do such a thing with the fruit of surgery, without considerable scientific literacy and with the support of science and technology. Genetic modification is nothing but a castle in the air. Imagine, if Whitebeard got the fruit of the operation when he was young, could he directly perform reconstructive surgery on others? Don't be kidding, this fruit is not something that can be played with power alone. It is a technical job. As far as the general cultural level in this sea is concerned, Roger, Whitebeard, and Golden Lion may not be able to work together. This operation cannot be done. But Vlad is different, he is very lucky, just like Vegapunk said to Vlad, maybe he can really sit in such an operation. First of all, the fruit of the operation is under his command. Luo K is the ship doctor of the Fire Dragon Pirates. His medical literacy is still excellent. He has quite rich experience in surgery, and operation experience is also a very important part of this operation, right? Secondly, Vlad is surrounded by top geneticists like Paso Judge, not to mention Vegapunk, who is the world's #1 in technology. In this case, the person who really guides the transformation is also quite reliable. So, Vlad rushed out of the water and soared recklessly in the air. The biggest restriction is, Luo, and, is it a model for transformation? Immortality surgery is not without cost. I also know that if you want to truly strengthen a person from the genetic level, the concentration, physical strength, and willpower required are astonishing. However, the characteristic of the fruit of the operation is that it has an impact on physical strength. The consumption is extremely fast. Once the physical strength is lost, then the fuel will be the vitality. That is to say, with the current Luo, even dying on the operating table is not a strange thing. Then, the enhancement and transformation cannot be done blindly. Even Vegapunk has no experience. If you want to really put this operation into practice, I am afraid you still need a reference, for example, the blood of the boss of IM. Ah, how can this be done? Vlad was quite speechless. It's so easy to get his genetic sample from the imba guy like boss IM. Are you kidding me? It's too late for Vlad to hide from him now. Should he still take the initiative to find him? Vlad decided to be honest and live to become One Piece. King of Pirates is quite happy. However, isn't the doctor very clear about IM's origins? Vlad spread his wings and flew high. What kind of evil law is the so-called evil kingdom? Even if the boss said so, even the doctor said that, what is the so-called huge kingdom? I'm really confused. After the topic of surgery was over, Vlad also asked the doctor about Imam's origin and the hidden truth for 100 years. Unfortunately, the doctor was not very clear about these things. He told Vlad that he did get the legacy of the ancient kingdom, but it does not include the history of the 100 years. The only thing I know is that there was a once for the evil kingdom 800 years ago. A huge war broke out. Not to mention about IM. There is absolutely no record of this guy in the information obtained by Vegapunk. The cognition of this guy is still in contact with various materials when the government's subordinates were conducting experiments. Behind the world, there may be another hand. So, in fact, the current IM is still a mystery to Vlad, and he doesn't understand the origin of this person, but he is still quite satisfied when he knows how to make himself stand on the same level as IM. Ha, let's talk to Luo first. Vlad rushed into the sky. dash 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 dash. The sea has not been very calm for the past 2 days. The news reported by the World Economic News is really astonishing. Immediately, there was a frenzy on the sea. The black material is full of interest, especially this time the material is so black. Whether it's IM's existence or the government's support for Wano-kuni dynamite rock to blow up marine, of course, they're all explosive news, but they're quite eye-catching. Then, it didn't take long for the government's feedback to arrive. It was a natural denial. Whether it was the existence of IM or the matter about the explosive rock, the government's attitude was of course a total denial. This kind of thing can't be done in front of everyone. Admit it. Of course, the government has no shortage of brains. So the war of public opinion began. Vlad laughed for 2 hours when he got the news. It was really interesting. The government on one side and the guy on the other side didn't know who it was. Most likely it was the Revolutionary Army or some other miscellaneous guy. The newspaper was really long. A very interesting and unique war started like this. The content is basically constantly pouring dirty water on the other party and constantly guiding public opinion. It can be said that it is very interesting. The government emphasized that this is all a frame-up. This is all a despicable and shameless villain with ulterior motives. Disrupting the order of the sea, thereby attacking the government that maintains the stability of the world. What I am, does not exist. How can there be such a guy? What dynamite rock? This is the conspiracy of the Fire Dragon Pirates. They are a group with the Revolutionary Army that endangers the world. They stole the explosive rock from the government and then framed the government, which is all false. Then on the other side, the guy standing opposite the government is also full of tricks. Vlad has even seen various versions of IM's photos in the newspaper, and he is convinced. You know, the one in the newspaper that Morgan's distributed before. IM's pictures were also hand-painted, and Vlad certainly didn't have time to take pictures of IM. That's fine, anyone with a discerning eye can see what's wrong. What's more interesting is that the various inexplicable data in the newspaper, accurate to single digits, seems to know the government's explosive rock reserves better than marine. The emperor's successive sacks, so he wanted to suppress marine's strength was essentially to protect the authority of the government. The point is that it's actually true, and it's fun. Vlad looked very happy, and I believe there are many people who are as happy as him. That is, when Vlad was very happy, someone called him. Chapter 831 World Conference. Oh, it's you again, Dragon. A phone bug in his hand, Vlad smiled and said, you have time to call me at this time. Dragon, shouldn't you be very busy? It was Vlad's good friend who called Vlad, the supreme commander of the Revolutionary Army, Monkey D. Dragon, who is known as the most vicious man in the world. Because there are very important things that have to be told to you in person, but Vlad. Dragon's voice sounded very happy. Now that even Kaido has been resolved, there is only one last step left for the location of One Piece, King of Pirates. Woo-ha-ha, happy with the same joy. Vlad laughed, and he was naturally happy to be complimented. Vlad is a very vulgar person. When he was insulted, he felt angry, and when he was praised, he felt happy. You have done a good job. Pretty. Dragon, it looks like this has changed the world. The Revolutionary Army has not done nothing recently except for sparring with the government in the newspapers. The revolutionary work is in full swing and very lively. Whether it is the 4 Seas or the Great Route, the revolutionary ideas have been widely spread, and the power of ideas it is really great. No one knows that country, no one knows that those people have awakened their belief in freedom and joined the wave of revolution. This is the so-called best way to save a drop of water is to melt that drop into the sea. The revolutionary cause is thriving, and the rest may be to finally break with the government. It's not that easy to change the world. Dragon sighed, to be honest, if the opponent is the government, then it's too strong. What's more, I only now know that there is a guy named IM on the head of the government. Yes. Vlad nodded in agreement. Boss IM is not a good opponent to deal with. You won't understand Dragon if you haven't played against him. That man, Well, I don't know if it's a man, anyway. He was overwhelmingly powerful, quote. But want to bring down the government. Dragon said, this guy is a threshold that has to be crossed. Oh. Vlad laughed, what, Comrade Dragon, is there any way to cross the threshold? In a little while. Dragon said, the government has announced that the World Conference will be held in advance. In a few days, in Mariajoy, the rulers of more than 170 countries that have joined the world government will gather together, the world's largest and highest level. The meeting will be held soon. Quote. Yeah. Vlad looked very surprised, are you kidding me? Dragon, more than 170 countries. Isn't all the government's allied countries gathered together? In fact, not all countries have the qualifications to participate in the World Conference. After all, just like people are divided into 3, 6, 9, etc., the difference between the strengths and weaknesses of countries is quite obvious. The 4-yearly World Conference is for the purpose of discuss the major propositions of world development, but unfortunately, it has nothing to do with some weak and small countries that determine the direction of the world. So Vlad was surprised. When did all countries qualify to participate in the World Conference? Perhaps. Dragon said, the government also thinks the same as I think, they also want to end everything. Oh, is it? Vlad's mood rose instantly, that is to say. A world war. Perhaps. Dragon's tone was a little heavy. So, Dragon. Vlad asked, you mean, go to Mariajoy later? Interested. Dragon laughed, if nothing else happens, I am in Mariajoy, revealing IM's existence in front of all the franchisees. I think it will be interesting to develop in the future. Great idea. Vlad said with a smile, it's a good idea. If it works, then of course, the government will be in danger of falling apart immediately, and, more interestingly, what will Marine choose? Just thinking about it made Vlad want to laugh. And, Vlad. Says Dragon, the last stone you're missing is in Mariajoy, find it to get to Laughtail. That's right, with you, it's a lot less stressful. Vlad nodded, but even if you don't get rid of Boss IM, going to Mariajoy to do things during the World Conference, it's not that easy to get out of the way. Don't even think about it, when the time comes, the guards in Mariajoy include but not limited to Marine Admiral, Vice Admiral, and CP0, plus the guards of the Holy Land, and you don't need IM to shoot, these guys are enough for this side. Have a drink. That's it, so. Dragon's laughter came over, hearty laughter, I just came back to find you. That's right. Vlad nodded, secretly saying that this is of course a matter of course, because his big ship D-Drake is really easy to use, and it is really easy to use for escape. Then, Vlad. Dragon said, what's your decision? What more do you need to say? Vlad grinned, although confronting IM was indeed a dangerous thing, but that was not a reason to hold back. Let's go. Add some beautiful fireworks to such a high-end meeting. The climax of the era is about to come. Perhaps, this will be the most meaningful world conference since the establishment of the world government. The whole world may go in a completely different direction. In order to meet the world conference that will soon follow, Vlad and Dragon have already moved. At the same time, for the same purpose, in order to welcome the arrival of the world conference and to prepare for the next great war, the world government has also begun to take action. Is everyone here? In an empty corridor, 5 old men gathered together, and their voices echoed freely without any hindrance. I didn't expect to come this far so quickly. The blonde-haired Gorose, 5 elders sighed and looked at the huge door in front of them. It's actually our generation that uses it. No way, if you're mean. The bald Gorose, 5 elders said casually, Lord IM is about to wake up completely. At that time, maybe even that thing will be activated. Once it develops to that point. Maybe there will be a vacancy in history for another few decades. The bearded Gorose, 5 elders whispered. Anyway, this time there is no time for hesitation. The bearded Gorose, 5 elders stepped forward, let's go. This time, go all out. Next is the big event that shakes the world. Chapter 832 Opening Ceremony. Even if the government and the Revolutionary Army make a fuss in the newspapers, all the eyes of the world have been placed here, as if there is no more thing in the world that can attract their attention. But, even so, the waves caused by another event can still attract the world's attention. The Quadrennial World Conference has finally arrived. Different from the previous conferences, this time, more than 170 member countries under the government of the World Conference have all gathered together, which is really unimaginable before. The main purpose of the World Conference is to discuss big issues about the direction of the world. Issues that can have a major impact on the development of the world are the topics of the conference. Unfortunately, not all countries can be invited by the government to participate in the conference. After all, many nations are of the type that are completely incapable of influencing the world. Similarly, because more countries know that they cannot deeply influence the government's decision-making, there are many countries that refuse to participate in the meeting even if they are invited. It is precisely because of this that the World Conference this time is so special. The invitation of all members will not be treated differently because of the strength of the country. At the same time, the invitation is mandatory, and rejection is not allowed. Inside head to Mariajoy for the meeting. Of course, these doubtful kings are still not very clear. The biggest difference in this meeting is that it is not for them to confirm the speaker, raise topics, discuss freely, and discuss the issues to be discussed. The choices they want to make have already been obtained. Confirm that what they are going to do is just a cutscene. Dash 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 dash. There are ignorant and fearless pirates everywhere. When a sudden naval battle had come to an end, Marine Vice Admiral Momonga with mohawk hair was standing on the bow with his hand on the long knife at his waist, and said in a low voice, "It doesn't stop even during the World Conference. Hey, run, it's Marine Vice Admiral, that Momonga. The operation failed. Retreat, retreat. Don't fight, don't fight, this guy is not something we can fight." On the opposite ship, the pirates are making a fuss. The pressure brought by Marine Vice Admiral is not something that ordinary people can bear. It is true that the New World is the strongest sea area, but it does not mean that all pirates are strong. If you want to be the enemy of Marine Vice Admiral like Momonga, the bounty is at least about 500 million. Don't let anyone go. At the luxurious big boat next to her, Momonga secretly said, "At this time, you must not lose face in front of the allied countries. Destroy the enemy." The huge marine battleship quickly approached. Momonga's vigorous body jumped up, and her hand was already on the long sword at her waist. Drink. The long knife was suddenly unsheathed, and the blazing slashing slash roared out. Below, the huge pirate ship was like tofu that encountered the knife. It had no resistance and was directly cut in half. Marine on the deck beat the drowning dogs and wiped out the pirates on the sea below that had not sunk with the big ship. "It's time to report." Momonga nodded and took out the phone bug. Dash 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 dash. "Is it done?" Pushing the phone behind the phone bug, Kizaru asked. "Ah." A cigar still in his mouth, His Excellency Marshal Marine nodded. "It's just a cat and a dog to hope to make a fortune from the allied countries. In fact, now, Marine's power has been weakened like never before. 2 of the 4 emperor groups have been destroyed, and there is no strong successor to see below, not to mention Shichibukai, the top 2 years ago. After the war, it was not full. Don Quixote da Flamingo was also killed as a sacrifice for the war with Kaido before, and even the supernova who had been very violent in the past 2 years died, and a few others joined under the command of the Fire Dragon. Compared to the current Marine, the strength of the pirates has been weakened unprecedentedly. And at this time, the people who dare to come forward and do things are just some cats and dogs. After all, the 4 emperors, no, this title should no longer be used. The Fire Dragon pirates have a bigger plan, the red-haired pirates. The regiment has always kept its own feet, and only other cats and dogs will do things at this time. Come on, Borsellino. Akainu stood up from his position. What? Kizaru was a little stunned. Do we need to be dispatched? For security issues, Fujitora and Ryokugyu were on Mariajoy yesterday. This time the meeting is different. Akainu said, the guy doesn't know who else is coming. And I'm not quite satisfied with the explanations those old men gave me. Just in time, Marine needs their answers for this meeting. Ah, really? Kizaru looked bored and stood up, stretched deeply. I have some bad premonitions. Then try to do it well. On the cloak of justice, Akainu pushed open the door. The forces of justice have all begun to converge towards the Holy Land. Dash 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 dash. Hey! Huge bubbles started to fly towards the sky. Name was Staley, tall, wearing a jacket with a ruffled shirt on the back, ruffles on the shoulders, a high neck, a crown on his head. Someone was striking it as his round head in the head of the pot, the king of the Goya kingdom of East Blue, who looks like a king without a single point, his eyes wide open, very surprised, and very funny. Really fly. This bubble is a specialty of Sabayati archipelago. It is one of the means to get to Mariajoy from the sea. Of course, it is not comparable to the giant snail in terms of cargo volume, but of course it is better in terms of sightseeing experience. Dusty. This is. The bubbles flew higher and higher, and soon they broke through the clouds. Staley looked at the sea in the distance, and the clouds floating below looked very agitated. What God saw. His eyes were full of longing. Dash 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 dash. King Staley. Soon, bubbles flew to the top of the red soil continent, and the long-awaited receptionist Vivi bowed his head, waiting for a long time. Oh. Staley ran out of the stop where the bubble was parked in 3 or 2 steps, and then his eyes widened again. This is. Ahead, the white town is quite amazing. Mariajoy, the abode of the gods. Please, King Staley. Receptionist said softly, the target is Panchung, the meeting will start immediately. That's it, the opening ceremony. Chapter 833 issue. Crack boom boom boom. The tall old man was sitting leisurely in the port of New Marineford, looking at the end of the ocean, and seemed to be enjoying himself very much. The old man is wearing a cloak of justice, with a majestic figure, his white suit is fully propped up, his gray hair, and the scars at the corners of his eyes are very eye-catching. There was a plate of senbei on the table, and the old man never stopped in his mouth. He kept being stuffed into his mouth by the senbei, chewing, and the sound of rattling dissipated. Well. Suddenly, the old man was stunned, and a guy in a black robe had already sat across from him. Old man. The man in black robe took out a senbei from the plate in front of him and stuffed it directly into his mouth, so the sound of bang 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 sounded again. It's too late to find out why this kid is here, the white-haired old man, that is, Vice Admiral, Marine, legend, Marine hero, Monkey D. Garp, who was supposed to be aged in East Blue. Boom. Without hesitation, his body suddenly stood up, and his fist smashed directly on the head of the guy opposite. Hey! With a scream, the man in the black robe smashed his head on the table. Bastard! Old man's record. Garp Vice Admiral. Naturally, the loud noise here instantly attracted the attention of the surrounding Marines. You must know that this is Marineford's port, so it's strange that there is no Marine, right? Ahahaha. The old man scratched the back of his head in hindsight. I'm a little emotional, ahahaha. Just pretend you didn't see it. Although I have long known that this person is a neurotic person, but if you really come into such close contact, you will feel that this old man is unusual. Boy. Naturally, although worshipping Garp is a sentiment shared by basically all contemporary Marines, not all of them are qualified and have the courage to come and talk to them. Why are you here, fellow? Of course, it was instantly recognized who the guy opposite was. After all, it was a father and son, dragon. Marineford at this time is not a place where you can be arrogant. For what, old man? Dragon, voice with his head hidden in the black robe smiled. It's very simple, we also want to participate in this world conference. What? Garp was taken aback. What the hell are you trying to do? The old man, is real. Dragon said, I think you know better than me about the government's attitude towards Marine. Quote. Garp's face sank. Of course, the existence or not can't be confirmed with a single sentence, either the government's side or the Revolutionary Army's side. I hope you can help me. Dragon said, Old man, we're not strong enough. To be able to defeat the government, we need more power. Like Marine. Quote. Dragon. Garp looked confused. What was this guy thinking? Want to include Marine? Wait, old man. Dragon turned into wind. It won't be long, soon, the government will be completely exposed. Quack quack. Garp was still sitting comfortably in his seat, stuffing the senbei into his mouth, and he didn't seem to be affected by Dragon's words at all. Wow. Staley pushed open the door in front of him, exposing a huge space in front of him. In front of it is a huge room, surrounded by a circle of tables and chairs around the platform in the middle. At this time, there are already a lot of people sitting in the seats, dressed in gorgeous clothes. Almost all of them are people with crowns on their heads. Needless to say, these people are of course kings from different countries. Come with me, King Staley. The receptionist looked very competent, and led Staley to his position. Relative to the front position, Staley sat in his own seat and looked around curiously, although it was king, but he has no experience of traveling abroad, let alone with so many kings. With a smile, he started chatting with the surrounding kings. Although Staley is not an approachable person, if the people around him are not lowly commoners, but kings with similar values to him, then he will give a few friends are also normal. Staley soon learned a lot from the mouths of the surrounding kings about the difference between this world conference and other world conferences, such as the explosion of participating countries, and the delay of the usual banquet, and the removal of visiting time as like. Want to make a decision as quickly as possible. It didn't take long to chat, and soon, someone's arrival ended the chaos in the conference room. The old man with a long beard and a black suit strolled into the conference room. He didn't stay in his seat, but walked directly to the platform in the middle of the hall. Looking around, an invisible aura pervaded. It's not a congratulation-like conqueror, but a simple, imposing manner developed by the character's long-term position in a high position. Please be quiet, kings. The old man said so. Who is this man? Staley swallowed 2 mouthfuls involuntarily, looking a little scared. Is it unusual? Don't you know, King Staley? The king next to him looked a little surprised. He didn't expect this guy to be so ignorant. This is the highest power in the world government, the highest position in Tenryubito, and one of the Gorosei 5 elders. Gorosei 5 elders. Staley's eyes widened. Tenryubito. It's so good. Kings, I think you've noticed that this world conference is special. Bearded Gorosei 5 elders put it this way, the timing is advanced, the number of countries invited, the banquet and the visit time are cut, all of these differences are for a reason, I think no one has not noticed by now. The movement of the Revolutionary Army is quite obvious. The wave they set off has spread all over the world. No one knows how many people who have been subjected to such evil thoughts are lurking in our country. I think everyone understands this kind of thing. They are already the enemies of the whole world. There are already a lot of participants among you. Their country was officially overthrown by the revolutionary monarch. They lost everything, and you, obviously, are not safe. I think we have not tolerated them. Necessary. It's time. Completely destroy this organization that threatens the world. Bearded Gorosei 5 elders say, that's what this world conference is about. Complete, destroyed, Revolutionary Army. Chapter 834 Debut. Netright Pointing Arrow, provides you with wonderful novels to read. Tisk, where is it? In the green space, the huge pirate ship was slowly wandering, and Vlad sat leisurely on the bow, looking around. Really, it's too hidden to hide. Can't find a place at all. Of course, Vlad also came to Mariajoy. Of course, the purpose was to find the last piece of the historical text of the road sign. By the way, he would do Comrade Dragon a small favor and give them a way to retreat. I didn't bring any extra companions. Vlad came alone, because it was unnecessary, and he didn't come to fight. It would be inconvenient to bring too many people and finally run away, right? It is really convenient to ride D-Drake to find things. No matter what the wall material is, Vlad going can't stop it. It easily breaks through all the restrictions. After all, even the wall made by Seastone is in front of the invaders from different spaces. They are quite powerless. They can't break through time and space to intercept them, right? So, very easy. Vlad and his big boat have been around Mariajoy for several laps and still go unnoticed. To be noticed as the real ghost. But it's very annoying. Even the data room wrapped by Seastone has already arrived, and many top-secret documents have been obtained. However, they still haven't found what they want. Where is it? What is the government doing? Don't you know how to hide things a little more above board? Does not consider the feelings of thieves at all. After all, the ancient city of Pengu is still quite big. It will take a lot of time to find it slowly. Vlad has no better way, so he can only find it full of it, right? Oh. Suddenly, the front suddenly became bright, and the bright light instantly passed through a space and passed to the big boat on this side. Here. Fred exclaimed. This room is very big, and it is different from all the rooms I have encountered before. It is full of various plants. Of course, Vlad did not pay attention to these plants. What he focused on, of course, was the one wearing a guy in a black robe sleeping lazily leaning against a tree. Boss I.M. The invincible and powerful Boss I.M. is still sleeping, and he doesn't seem to wake up at all. After all, if a person is used to sleeping continuously for several years, it will be very difficult to wake up quickly. In particular, after being woken up suddenly, after the initial excitement time passed, of course, another huge period of burnout ushered in. Now. Vlad's eyes flashed like light, and he said eagerly, I wonder if I can kill this guy directly. Even if I can't kill it, at least it's easy to get blood or something. Although it seems a little immoral to shoot while others are asleep, but as a pirate, you don't need to care about a fair fight, right? Forget it. Vlad finally gave up this idea. After all, this IM's observation hockey has reached the level of predicting the future. The ghost knows if there will be any other hidden strengths. It's better not to be too arrogant, so let's go first. Looking for rocks. So the huge pirate ship continued going, until it entered a huge empty room. Ah, this is. Vlad was very surprised. Nothing. Although it is very tightly preserved through a thick door, is there really nothing inside? There is a lot of dust on the ground, and the strange thing is that there are many clean places on the dust, as if a lot of things were put here before, but now they have been taken away. Tisk, then move on. Dash 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 dash. On the other hand, the World Conference is still going on. The long-bearded Gorosei, 5 elders, speech was not over yet, but the surrounding seats were already full of discussions. Revolutionary Army. Indeed, there are only 1 or 2 countries around me that have been overthrown by the Revolutionary Army for a while. I heard that all the kings of countries overthrown by the Revolutionary Army will be miserable, and they will be executed directly in front of those untouchables. It's no wonder that everyone will be summoned this time. Indeed, the threat posed by the Revolutionary Army is simply too great. But the forces of the Revolutionary Army have grown tremendously. If you want to defeat them. The war sweeping the world. The bearded Gorosei, 5 elders said in a high and powerful voice, what awaits us next is a war that will sweep the world. War. Swept the world. That is. World War. Immediately, the noise even seemed to push this conference room away. No one likes war in war. Unless this war can really bring him several times the profits, who would want to fight? These countries are not big, and not all of them have the war potential of Alabasta. You know, if you start a war with the Revolutionary Army, it is equivalent to starting a war with the other half of the world. Is that so? It looks like everyone doesn't have an intuitive understanding of the current situation. The bearded Garose, 5 elders keenly noticed the disapproval of these kings, and the voice sounded again. The goal of the Revolutionary Army is not to overthrow 1 or 2 countries and it's over. Their goal is the whole world. It's everyone here. If we continue to let them go, then maybe this will be our last World Conference. After that, we will all be prisoners of the Revolutionary Army, you know. How fast are they developing? And, what's more troublesome is that the fire dragon Vlad, who just defeated Kaido of the Beasts after defeating Big Mom Charlotte, Linlin, is also a staunch supporter of the revolution. Needless to say, he is also a loyal partner of the Revolutionary Army. What we have to face is such a powerful enemy. Quote, even though you already know the danger you are facing, are you still reluctant to engage in the battle to resolve the risk? Then, of course, the kings gradually began to hesitate. Words of war. World war. That's exactly what I want. Suddenly, the deep man's voice spread out. Up to now, the only thing that can decide everything is war. But, before we go to war, I think, kings, there are things you should know. A gust of wind swept in, and a man in a black robe was already standing in the center of the platform, opposite the bearded Garose, 5 elders. Without the slightest fear, without the slightest hesitation, this man has officially appeared in front of everyone. I am. To bring the truth to the world. The world government that has been stabilized for 800 years, what will happen after today? Equals 1 second to remember the net. Chapter 835 Declare War. Net right pointing arrow, provides you with wonderful novels to read. What I'm here for. The visitor looked around and said loudly, it's for the sake of. Expose the truth hidden by the government to everyone. It can be said to be quite reckless. This guy is. That dragon. Why did the leader of the Revolutionary Army come here? He doesn't want to live. This is Mariajoy, the seat of the world government, the most guarded place in the world. What's more important, isn't it during the World Conference that the garrison strength of the Holy Land has never been improved? There is more than one Marine Admiral stationed here. This guy. Did you come for death? The popularity of Dragon around the world can be said to be quite high, especially in the recent period. The things that have been done around the world have already shocked the glasses, and they will appear in the headlines of the newspapers every so often. A guy who can become a king will not be too ignorant even if he is not doing a proper job. There is really no reason for not recognizing Dragon. Then, of course, these kings did not feel panic at all. If they had met this man in other places, such as their own palace, they might have been shivering with fright, and then knelt on the ground and kissed the toe of each other's shoes. I hope the other party can let him go, but this is not a place where Dragon can do whatever he wants. Where would fear be needed? Boom. The wall behind suddenly shattered, and it took only a minute for Dragon to show his face, and the monsters guarding the surrounding area had already appeared. There really is an intruder. The blind swordsman strode forward. It's unbelievable. Isn't it even more difficult to imagine that this intruder is actually... The man behind him said in amazement, the commander-in-chief of the Revolutionary Army. Wow, that's really bold. It's really Mariajoy, isn't it? Obviously it is Mariajoy. Marine headquarters is just a short distance below, and the internal guard force is equally powerful, but, how dare you come here to be presumptuous? The courage is really quite small. Marine Admiral Fujitora. And Ryokugyu. They are all monsters with amazing strength. If there are 2 people around, even this dragon can't go wild. The kings are smiling, and it is only natural that Marine Admiral exists on the sea. It is the sanctioner of all sins, and the beacon standing at the apex of justice, which symbolizes the invincible evil nemesis. Marine Admiral Fujitora and Ryokugyu, Such combat power is really too strong. Dragon looked back, but he didn't mean to be surprised. If the World Conference didn't have Admiral's protection, it would be the strangest thing. If such a thing really happened, he would have to suspect that the government had some conspiracy. But, kings, are you too happy too soon? Dragon said so. Woo. Got windy. It was obviously a closed room, but now the wind was suddenly blowing, and the breeze began to blow, blowing on everyone's faces. What? Ah. Yes, yes. Suddenly, shrill screams appeared in the conference hall, and many kings covered their cheeks, and there was blood dripping from it. It's blood. Is it the ability of the dragon? Please be quiet, kings. Dragon raised his hands slightly, and then, the hall instantly fell into a strange silence. It's not that all fears are eliminated in one sentence, so that no one is screaming loudly, but, suddenly, it feels like a sharp knife has been placed on the neck in an instant. It's not an illusion, but it can be real. The tactile he felt, as if he would cut his head off his neck in the next instant. It won't hurt you, of course. Dragon said, the premise is to keep my talk going. Is power the wind? Fujitora said solemnly. Haha, this is really a ubiquitous ability. Ryokugyu smiled and said, it's over, isn't the situation completely reversed? Will I be scolded by the old men later? Damn, dragon. The long-bearded Gorosei, 5 elders gritted their teeth, and the development of the situation suddenly became strange. In terms of combat power, if the battle really started, Dragon would undoubtedly be killed directly. After all, even if he was strong, he would not be able to. Would be 2 Marine Admiral rivals, not to mention, right now that bastard in a kainu is arguing with the other Gorosei, 5 elders between the powers. However, the battle will not happen. The bastard dragon has taken these kings hostage. The kings of all countries under the world government are now all dragon's hostages. Of course the Gorosei, 5 elders are not afraid to speculate about dragon's actions with the worst intentions. If these people are really caught by dragon, then the world government will have a lot of fun. All the allied countries will be leaderless, and the revolutionary army will take the opportunity to do what they want to know. Of course, the most troublesome thing is that he didn't dare to make any big noises. If he really woke up Lord Yimu, it would be fun to watch. The Lord clearly said that he should kill him and not listen. He was talking about Fujitora. If he saw that Fujitora was still alive and kicking, the Gorosei, 5 elders would not dare to imagine what the consequences would be. I'm here for what I'm here for. Dragon turned his head and didn't care at all about the old man who held the highest power in the world. It seemed that in his eyes, the old man was just an old man. It's really good to reveal the truth behind the world, but it's really good to use words alone. Powerless, so put it a little later, what to do now is equally important. Now. Dragon looked directly at the Gorosei, 5 elders beside him, but he didn't mean to do anything. His eyes were full of determination and unparalleled courage. Gorosei, 5 elders. Next. Dragon said, although it has been decided for a long time and the action for this purpose has been carried out for a long time, this is the first time that an official announcement has been made. The purpose of our revolutionary army is to destroy this world full of oppression, so that all people can live according to free will, so the corrupt kingship, the corrupt government, and the source of all evil, Tenryubito, are ours. The enemy of the people. The world that belongs to the people does not need such evil. We will use force to create the world we want. Next. Gorosei, 5 elders. This is our gauntlet. The time has come, the final decisive battle can be launched, there is no reason to wait, there is no excuse to let go, the battle book has been issued. War book. Bearded Gorosei, 5 elders sink their faces. Equals 1 second to remember the net. Chapter 836 Get it, and then. Net right pointing arrow, provides you with wonderful novels to read. That is, when the swords were drawn out in the conference room, there were still other interesting things happening in other parts of Panchung. Boss Yimu was still sleeping. Although the sudden appearance of Dragon really caused a lot of commotion, Boss Yimu's drowsiness was not covered. Even Vlad burned the Tenryubito gathering place next to the ancient city to white ground. This person can still sleep soundly, and it is not very easy to wake him up. Therefore, the atmosphere between the flowers is still quite harmonious. The quiet atmosphere and the beautiful scenery must be a match that will make everyone excited, right? I have to say, Bastian will still enjoy it quite a bit. Then, Vlad was still driving around in the boat, hoping to find the fourth road sign, but the area of the ancient city of Pan is really not small, and there are countless strange rooms. I want to be in so many rooms. Finding a stone inside is really not an easy task. Vlad even wondered if the government had buried the stone in the ground, so he couldn't find it. But there is really no other better way. The stone has no breath, and it can only be done by continuing to search until it is found. Then, at the top of the ancient city of Pan, between the rites, where the Gorosei 5 elders always blow water, a debate has been going on for a long time. Akainu, how long are you going to make trouble, you bastard? Bald Gorosei 5 elders blew their beard and stared, and the blue veins on their forehead kept jumping, looking extremely penetrating. As a marine marshal, don't you have any sense of duty? Now that Dragon Guy has rushed into the World Conference, do you think you didn't see it? Fujitora and Ryokugyu over there at Dragon is enough. Chaton Tokikake and Momosugi are over there too. The opposite side, Marshal Akainu with his arms crossed his chest has no intention of admitting at all, with a cigar in his mouth, bold and grandiose sitting on the sofa opposite, with Kazaru who looks helpless and Suru who doesn't say a word standing behind him. Vice Admiral. The problem we have to solve now, Gorosei 5 elders. Akainu said coldly, you guys have been perfunctory for so long, should you give us a clear answer? What happened to Wanokuni? Are you doubting us? Akainu. Sword-wielding Gorosei 5 elders were furious. What we tell you is the truth, and the government's order is absolute. Do we need to teach you such a truth? Really angry, this mad dog-like guy is not only cold-blooded and cruel when dealing with pirates, but always implements his thorough justice. Now even when facing the government, he still does not obey orders and always insists on his own doubts. Is simply annoying. From this point of view, it seems that this guy is really not suitable to be Marshal Marine. Akainu can fight, is iron-blooded, tenacious, courageous, and intelligent. He is indeed the perfect army commander. However, what the Gorosei 5 elders need is not someone who has too many ideas. Don't let me forget everything like this. Akainu stood up directly. Just let me forget that when our soldiers were fighting for justice, the people above stabbed us in the back. Do you just want to perfunctory and let us forget about such a thing? Akainu is not an idiot. Of course he knows what it will be like to fight the Gorosei 5 elders like this, but, as he himself said, is it to be forgotten like this? When the warriors were fighting, how could the superior plan to kill them and the enemy together? Although the relationship with Fujitora is not very good, Fujitora is also Marine who fights for justice. Besides, it's not Akainu's messing around, it's really weird. As the government's strategic resource, explosive rock has always been the top priority. The last time Zephyr attacked the Marine Armory to snatch the explosive rock, Kazaru attacked immediately. The level of attention is evident, each one is registered, and a special person will check it every day. As a result, the government told him that because the Fire Dragon stole a lot of explosive rocks beforehand, they didn't know it. How about fooling the ghost? Gorosei 5 elders also have a headache. If the plan is successful, they can push the explosion to the Fire Dragon pirates and let Vegapunk make some terrifying weapons, but the trouble is that dynamite rock is known to Marine. We need a reasonable explanation. Lord Gorosei 5 elders. Akainu said solemnly. Quote. 4 Gorosei 5 elders fell into eerie silence, and this time it was troublesome. It was at this time that a sudden shock occurred suddenly, as if the ancient city of Pan was about to shatter. What? Akainu was taken aback. Revolutionary Army. More surprised than Akainu were the Gorosei 5 elders, because immediately after the sudden shock, it was. Damn bastard. A huge roar suddenly resounded through the sky. Awake! The Gorosei, 5 elders had sweat on their foreheads, one bad thing after another. This voice. Suru Vice Admiral, S eyes narrowed. Dash 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 dash. Time went back a little bit forward. When Marshal Akainu and the Gorosei, 5 elders were fighting, of course Vlad was not idle, and he was always looking for the stone he wanted honestly and diligently. From top to bottom, from the inside to the outside, Vlad searched the ancient city inside and out, and even he came in and searched carefully between the rites of Gorosei, 5 elders and Akainu. Of course, he would not be noticed in another dimension, otherwise it would be fun. The result was no. I searched everywhere but still couldn't find it. It was really embarrassing. Vlad had some doubts about whether the last stone was really in the hands of the government. Then it started to go straight down. If you can't find it on the ground, try it underground. Maybe it's really put on the ground. Then I really found it. It didn't take long for him to go down, and a huge underground space was already exposed in front of Vlad. It was dark. Although the lights were on, the weak lights could not really illuminate the space. Here, Vlad finally saw the last stone that he had been thinking about, and it can be said that he was quite overjoyed. Tisk, the treasure room. Vlad smiled like this, and shoved the last stone into the different space. Then, he appeared in this underground space and looked at everything around him with great interest. At the front is a huge door. The outside of the door seems to be a passage. Then there are many things inside. Of course, there are no treasures, weapons, devil fruits and the like. Strange things, desks, clothes, etc., seem to be. Remember someone. Of course, if you have to say that there is nothing special, there is. This is. Vlad's eyes widened, and he stared blankly at what appeared in front of him. That's a straw hat. Luffy's head, except that it is larger in appearance, is simply unimaginable. What came from? Vlad pulled the corners of his mouth and stretched out his hand. Is this some kind of weird inheritance? His hand picked up the straw hat. Then came the sudden shock. Equals 1 second to remember the net. Chapter 837 beginning. Just when Vlad in the ground picked up the straw hat, the place was among the flowers in the deepest part of the ancient city of Pan. It was earth-shattering, the ground was lifted directly, and the beautiful plants were directly crushed and turned into a cloud of smoke. Damn bastard! A loud roar like never before came from under Im's black robe, and everything in the world would tremble at this man's anger. Boom! The ground suddenly shattered, and a huge hole suddenly appeared under Yinu's body. Without the slightest stagnation, Yinu flew down instantly, straight down, and everything in front of him was easily removed. Smash _ Crap! At this moment, in the conference hall of the World Conference, the bearded Gorosei, 5 elders also came back to their senses immediately. This voice is of course very familiar, but the anger contained in it has never been felt, even by Galdi Roger back then. The fact that he arrived at that cursed land didn't make this lord so angry. What exactly happened? What? Also somewhat surprised was Dragon, who hadn't heard Boss Im's voice and hadn't realized that what he was expecting had happened. That is to say, Fujitora silently pulled out the staff knife in his hand. Come on. He said so suddenly. Boom. The ceiling shattered suddenly, and a black shadow fell from the sky. This. Dragon came back to his senses in an instant. This person is probably the invincible Lord I Am that Vlad said. The bearded Gorosei, 5 elders almost didn't hold back his mouth, and Lord I Am almost spat out a few words from his mouth, but thankfully he held it back. Go away. Without the slightest pause, Im's voice was as cold as iron. The table, chairs, and floor below, including the human body, were all shattered in an instant, and the blood turned into smoke and spread out. Without consuming any extra time for Im, he had already rushed into the ground. Silence, everyone has not recovered. Then. Ah. It's dead. Who is that person? Is it the Revolutionary Army? Damn Revolutionary Army. I saw with my own eyes that the kings who had a meeting with me before were instantly shattered, and the kings who were left with only a little scum did not show the basic qualities that a king should have. The one who came out was already a great king. Don't get me wrong, kings. Dragon immediately realized that this was the best opportunity. This guy. Not a member of the Revolutionary Army, his identity is. Shut up, Dragon. The long-bearded Gorosei, 5 elders roared angrily, but the apparently aged body rushed towards Dragon like a cheetah. At this moment, the life and death of these kings were completely out of his consideration. Humph. The body dissipated in an instant, and Dragon, who turned into wind, directly distanced himself from the long-bearded Gorosei, 5 elders, and then his body gathered again. After that, his voice resounded through the conference hall. That person's identity is the black hand behind the world government, the guy named I Am. What? I Am. Speaking of Iam's words, no. Is there really such a guy? Wouldn't it be a lie? This is a conspiracy of the Revolutionary Army. The bearded Gorosei, 5 elders exclaimed, it's all a hoax. Fujitora, Ryokugyu, what are you still doing? Kill the dragon. At this time, there is really no need to worry about anything. Nice job, Vlad. Dragon laughed. Looking around, in the end, Dragon's eyes stayed on Fujitora and Ryokugyu in the back. He didn't care that most of these kings were the enemies he wanted to kill. However, Marine was different. Although he was an enemy all the year round, but Dragon is well aware that most of these guys, if not all, are fighting for justice. Otherwise, can the old man stay in the Marine for so many years? Dragon never doubted his father's sense of justice. So, next. Oh. In the underground world, Vlad sighed very much. This straw hat also looks quite old, but it is still well preserved. The surrounding things are the same. It seems that the owner here cares about these things. Special precautions have been taken to preserve it. It really scared me. Vlad murmured to himself, does this count as an appointment? Very disappointing thing. Roger is wearing a straw hat, and the straw hat is also wearing a straw hat, and there is still a straw hat here, so think about it a little, Tisk, it's really annoying, right? Forget it. Vlad curled his lips, no matter what he approves or not, I'll take One Piece, King of Pirates anyway. All 4 road signs are already in hand, and there is only one last step left from the location of One Piece, King of Pirates. The long-cherished dream has finally come to fruition. Vlad was a little excited. D-Drag. Summoning D-Drag's gate of opening, Vlad threw the straw hat into the different space at will. If the straw hat is some kind of imperial order, then Uncle Vlad also has a straw hat now. It's coming so fast. Vlad raised his head, the dark ceiling above was shaking constantly, as if something was rapidly approaching below. Ha, go for a walk. With such a smile, Vlad stepped into the gate of the different space. Asshole. It was such a coincidence that at this moment, the ceiling suddenly shattered, an invisible force was already rushing towards Vlad, and black shadows flickered out of the smoke brought by the bursting of the ceiling. Give it back to me. Tisk. It seems to really cherish it. Although I Am came very quickly, it is a pity that D-Drag's ability is even more buggy. I am not half of what I Am said. Vlad has already indented into the different space. As the air door closed abruptly, I Am naturally never touch a single hair of Vlad again. Is it your treasure? A space between Vlad and I Am facing each other. Haha, I'm so sorry for that. Quote. Slowly falling to the ground, I Am looked around, the stone was gone, and the straw hat was gone, the guy suddenly fell into silence. I know you're still here. Fire Dragon. He said suddenly, give it back to me. Otherwise, I'll turn you into scum bit by bit. Tisk. Threatening me, that's really scary. Vlad dismissed him, let's go. D-Drag, it's time to support our dragon comrade. Don't make our mates wait. Next, is to lead this IM to that side. Originally wanted to use stone, but now it seems that there is something better to use. Chapter 838, a world that is gradually shaking. Really good. Dragon's body is as if something is pulling him, and it easily avoids the attack of the bearded Gorosei, 5 elders, although the status is the highest in the world government after Boss IM, even among the Tenryubito tribe. The first-class high-ranking position, but it really doesn't necessarily mean how strong it is. After all, he is a government clerk who has never experienced much combat in his life. He was born Tenryubito, and then joined the government. Although he has received combat training, it is true, but with Marine from a violent agency and a special agency that came out of blood and fire compared to CP, of course, it is far worse. Strength is not something that can be achieved by cultivation alone. Only fighting is the way to become stronger. This is something everyone knows. I have never heard that if you stay alone and cultivate hard, you can become a warrior in the ocean. The top tyrants, after all, the most powerful means in the sea, whether it is hockey or fruit ability, are improved little by little in battle. For example, the current long-bearded Gorosei, 5 elders, although they are already old, their body's active strength is still not weak. Both strength and flexibility are quite remarkable, but it is limited to this. Hockey's the level is quite weak, and observation hockey is even more unbearable. Dragon just needs to sense the flow of air currents and can easily dodge his attacks. Is this really good? Dragon seems to be talking to the bearded Gorosei, 5 elders, but in fact his eyes are looking at Fujitora and Ryokugyu behind him. If that person is really not a high-ranking government official, then just watch as that person in this holy place, this Mariajoy doing so recklessly. You bastard. The long-bearded Gorosei, 5 elders had split eyes, clenched fists tightly, well manicured, and nails that were completely unsharp had penetrated deeply into the palm of his hand, and blood dripped on the ground little by little. It's not really a clever provocation, but it's quite useful. If this black-robed man is really not from the government, then naturally there is no reason to tolerate him messing around in this holy place, right? It's only natural that Marine Admiral will take action, right? However, the problem is that the guy named IM is indeed a man of the government, and he is above everything else, the worthy king of the world. So. Indeed. The back, Fujitora nodded and said loudly, since he is not a member of the government, according to His Excellency Gorosei, 5 elders, this person is an unknown force, so naturally he cannot be tolerated like this. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Ryokugyu, who was beside him, seemed to feel the same way, nodded and said, this is the center of the world, the seat of the world government, not to mention that this is the time when the World Conference is being held. Of course, such a thing cannot be tolerated. Damn. The long-bearded Gorosei, 5 elders whispered with sweat on his forehead. Then, Ryokugyu bro. Fujitora pulled out the staff and knife in his hand, I'll leave it to you here. Ah. Ryokugyu agreed and stepped forward. I am sorry, kings, for your safety, I have to make you feel a little wronged. Boom. The ground changed suddenly, like the most tenacious seeds breaking through the shackles of rocks. Huge vines and branches rose from the ground, but in an instant, the entire conference hall was turned into a sea of green plants. The cabin in the woods. Ryokugyu smiled and said so. What? This is. Wow. The kings let out a very unwilling exclamation, and the endless vines and trees have turned into capsules one after another to wrap them. In this case. Ryokugyu nodded, it won't be blown by the wind, so we can have a good fight, right? Admiral Ryokugyu. Dragon was very impressed, exclaimed, as expected, it is a monster called Fujitora Admiral. Then. Fujitora jumped slightly, and the person had come to the front of IM blasted out into the huge hole. Slowly heaving a sigh of relief, Fujitora smiled a little self-deprecatingly. It has been a long time since he was nervous. The increase in age naturally brings about the increase in life experience. Fujitora who has reached this stage is rarely because of the world. She was moved by the people and things, not to mention, after having the top strength of the world's flower girl, she naturally brought a huge confidence, and she would not have a guilty conscience in the face of anything. But, this time, it's different. Only after playing with this guy will you understand how powerful that guy is. It's really strong enough that even a strong person of Fujitori's level will feel the pressure of whether or not he will be directly killed when he knows that he is going to face him. However, with a smile on the corner of his mouth, Fujitora stepped forward. There's no reason to stop. Click. It was at this time that, in front, a door suddenly opened, and a leg stretched out from inside. What? The bearded Gorosei, 5 elders were caught off guard, as this door opened right in front of him. Boom. The big foot kicked the bearded Gorosei, 5 elders directly in the face, directly blasting the guy away, brushing past Ryokugyu, and slamming into the wall behind. Yeah, it seems to have kicked something. Vlad stepped out of the different space, scratched his head, and looked a little puzzled, but is the time just right? Dragon. Just right. Stopping beside Vlad, Dragon laughed. Looks like it's got his wish. What more? Vlad grinned. There are more interesting gains. Whoosh whoosh. With a few soft noises, on the ceiling, inside the big hole that Amu had broken before, several figures fell from the sky, and then landed on the opposite side, beside Fujitora. Are all the annoying guys here? Naturally it was none other than the one who spoke, with a cigar in his mouth, the Marine Headquarters Marshal, Akainu, who was always angry, said, "Isn't this the best chance? Is even the fire dragon here?" Along came the 4 remaining Gorosei, 5 elders, like this. Oh, everyone's almost here. Vlad smiled. On the opposite side, after adding Kizaru Akainu, the great staff crane, the top of Marine has basically arrived, and then the 5 Gorosei, 5 elders have also gathered here, plus the vines wrapped by Ryokugyu, the rising kings of the world governments, are here. Then, his hand reached into the door of the different dimension that had not been closed. Boss, if you don't come out again, just burn this straw hat. He took out the huge straw hat from the alien space, and scales had begun to cover his arms, and the flames began to rise. Stop. As if he couldn't wait, the black shadow rose into the sky from the big hole in the ground. Chapter 839 Exposed. That is. The moment Vlad took out the straw hat from the alien space, Dragon was still a little confused. This straw hat looked quite familiar, so you don't need to look carefully. Isn't this the one his son is wearing on his head? Is it the same as the top? It's not that the volume is enlarged a little, but it still looks exactly the same, So, this straw hat can threaten IM. As long as you're not a fool, you won't run away at this time, right? If you really take the relationship with the government firmly, it will be too passive. Then, as the shadow said, Dragon has never seen the boss of IM, so naturally he doesn't know that IM is an extremely egoistic person. No matter who he is, no matter what character he was before, if he has always been the king of 800 years, I am the only one who respects him, everyone respects him, and everyone obeys his king's words, then he will surely become such a person. So, of course, this person will only act according to his own thoughts, not because of outside interference to change his behavior. So, stop me. This kind of sound spread, and inside the big pit on the ground, a black shadow rose to the sky. The guy in black robe was already suspended in the air. His tone was full of anger. Fire Dragon. You are courting death. Oh. Vlad smiled at the appearance. You're threatening me again. It's really scary. By the way, boss, don't move. The flames soared, directly covering the huge straw hat. Of course, because of Vlad's deliberate control, it had not officially spread to the straw hat. My observation hockey has passed the test and can feel your mind power, so if you don't want this straw hat to turn into ashes, it's better not to act rashly. IM's fruit ability is quite strange, and the invisible power is quite bluffing, but if you think about it carefully, it is not impossible to find. Such a power that moves with your heart is not similar to the kind of power in science fiction movies. Is it the same ability as psychic power? I have to say, as the king of the world, but in terms of ability, there is no fashion value. This is indeed a very difficult ability. Although in various film and television works, the power of thought seems to be very fashionable and not very cool, but what is the horror of the power of thought that can easily move a piece of ocean in the distance? Degree. Vlad can't imagine. Whitebeard's shock fruit is weak in front of IM. Fortunately, invisible mind power is not undetectable. If observation hockey is strong enough, it is not difficult to observe and avoid his attacks. IM was trembling all over, as if he was furious to the extreme. For such a guy who has high self-esteem and has always just done his own way, such a threat to others is simply a lifetime of shame. This guy is. At the rear, Akainu spit out a smoke ring and said solemnly, Gorosei, 5 elders, is that the one you are talking about, the monster of unknown power? The one called IM. This. The blonde Gorosei, 5 elders beside Akainu looked hesitant. That is to say. Akainu said, the enemy. Gorosei, 5 elders are even more speechless. At this time, these old men feel very uncomfortable. Even though they have all kinds of designs, but their own boss is not up to the standard, which is very annoying. Isho. Akainu exclaimed, that's the guy, right? Yes. Fujitora nodded and said solemnly, be careful, Your Excellency Marshal, this guy is probably far stronger than what my words describe. Tisk. Akainu smacked his lips and glanced lightly at the Gorosei, 5 elders beside him. Is this the IM? Also feeling very surprised as Dragon. Although I heard Vlad talking about this person a few days ago, this is the first time I have really seen this guy. This is the invincible boss IM. He was very proud. Fire Dragon. I am not paying any attention to the gazes around him. Give me the things back and I can let you go. Boss IM, stop joking. Vlad grinned, how could I do such a silly thing? Doesn't this expose his weakness completely? It seems that this straw hat is really IM's treasure, and I definitely don't want it to be damaged a little. Regardless of whether it was out of bad taste or to protect his own safety, returning this thing that was obviously the treasure of Boss IM would be a fool's act, and it was absolutely impossible. You guy. IM's business suddenly dropped, the surrounding buildings began to tremble, and the sound of rumbling and rumbling was incessant. Doubtful. Challenging my bottom line again and again. Wow, it's scary. Vlad covered his mouth and said in horror, it scared me to death. The flames began to float, almost touching the straw hat. Don't scare me anymore, Boss IM, what if my hands are shaking? Boom. The ancient city of Panchung was directly broken, and the entire building rose directly into the sky, and then instantly turned into fragments in the air, which is really an amazing sight. Well, Boss IM, it's not impossible for me to give it back to you. Vlad smiled, stand still and let me punch you. What? Fire Dragon, you bastard. IM hadn't spoken yet, and the Gorosei, 5 elders at the back couldn't take it anymore. After all, this lord was taught from a very young age to be the king of Tenryubito, the great being of the god walking on the earth. How could he tolerate the blasphemy of others? Yeah, before the owner spoke, did the dog start barking first? Vlad twitched the corners of his mouth, looking rather disdainfully. Boss IM, is this really good? Your little brother looks like he wants to help you make a decision. Fire Dragon, you shouldn't know. IM said, that thing, but my treasure, has been preserved for 800 years, and the precious treasure that I hope can be preserved forever is something left to me by someone who was once very important. I really love it. Treasure, although I can hardly remember the face of that person, but if you're going to threaten me with it then I'll say. It's a really annoying thing. What? Vlad had a bad premonition. It seemed that this person didn't care too much about the memories of the past. What the hell are you trying to provoke me? Fire Dragon. IM's voice sounded unwavering. I have to say, you are indeed a genius in this regard. I have been around for more than 800 years, and I have never experienced anything like this. Angry. Although he attached great importance to memories, he did not attach much importance to the fact that he would give up his dignity because of such a thing. The guy named I Am was, after all, the most aloof king. Boom. A strong earthquake suddenly began to occur, and a huge movement that turned the world upside down has appeared. Not Mariajoy, the entire red earth continent around here is shaking, as if it will collapse at any time. Oh, seems to piss him off. Vlad grinned. Did. The blonde-haired Gorose, 5 elders widened their eyes. Are you so angry? No, no. The bearded Gorose, 5 elders exclaimed, you can't do that. Master, I am. Finally shouted out. Chapter 840 King of Heaven. Master, I am. Even with such a big movement now, it is still impossible to conceal such a voice. Although it is just a simple name, the amount of information contained in it is quite large after all. I am. Behind, Ryokugyu pulled the corners of his mouth. Sir. Is it finally said? With a smile on Dragon's face, he has been waiting for a long time. He no longer needs any extra reasons. Just such a sentence is enough. It comes from instinctively speaking with a sentence that is stronger than all the evidence. Hey, old man. The black and choking smoke began to rise, and Akainu's body had a tendency to melt. The fiery temperature spread out in just an instant. The magma was like anger. It will naturally erupt with it. Is that the reason? Akainu put his hand on the shoulders of the bearded Gorose, 5 elders. His voice was very low. You said it just now. I heard it clearly. You did call it out. It's called, Sir, I am. Kizaru scratched his head. His voice was rather strange, and his voice was drawn long. I heard it too, that, Lord Gorose, 5 elders. Should you give us an explanation? Kizaru said so. So, this I am. Akainu said, is that the superior of the government? Is what that bastard Hualong said true? Hearing Akainu calling himself a bastard, Vlad looked very indignant. Hey. Marshal Akainu, it's not good to scold a righteous partner who exposed the truth like this. Shut up, you evil scum. At this moment, Akainu obviously didn't mean to talk nonsense with Vlado. Since I am is a real existence, then Marine's existence is quite ridiculous. The army fighting for justice is actually just someone's private army. Maybe this is the funniest joke in the sea this year. Answer me, Gorose, 5 elders. Akainu's arm began to turn into lava little by little, and soon the hot lava would touch the body of the bearded Gorose, 5 elders. We Marine, are we being played like fools for 800 years? Master, I am. Didn't care about Akainu's questioning at all. The face of the bearded Gorose, 5 elders was full of sweat. An indescribable panic had spread in his heart, and his body even trembled a little, and it seemed that the legendary story passed down by word of mouth was about to happen to him. In front of him, the horrific history seems to be repeating itself in this world again. No, can't do this. Mariajoy will be destroyed. Are you ordering me? Looking back gently, although it is completely difficult to see where the eyes hidden in the black robe are looking, the bearded Gorose, 5 elders can still clearly confirm that this adult is looking at himself. Then PFF'd. The bearded Gorose, 5 elders is like being stepped on by the elephant lord. The old but still strong chest collapsed directly, blood poured out of his mouth, and his body regressed like a rocket, and was blasted straight out, not knowing where it flew. Master, I am. Other old man, the bald Gorose, 5 elders, was taken aback, but immediately exclaimed, we'll get everything sorted out in no time, so, please don't. Oh. Vlad raised his eyebrows, meaning, does this vibration represent something incredible? It seems to be. Dragon nodded. That's fun. Vlad smiled, maybe it will be something that can kill us in seconds. If that's the case. Dragon smiled, but it's too much trouble. Fix everything. I am said, that's what you said before, and it turned out. He looked at Vlad and then at Fujitora. Isn't this all alive and well? This. Bald Gorose, 5 elders immediately said. We were going to hold a world conference and take care of everyone who harmed your world at once, so. Im's voice was soft. PFF'd. Another Gorose, 5 elders throwing blood and flying backwards. Did I wake up early? Im said so. Extraordinarily domineering. That is to say. Akainu lowered his eyes. The matter of dynamite rock is not made up, but is really going to start like Fujitora. Enough is enough. Im said, I just want to sleep peacefully. Why are there so many obstacles? Yes. Vlad nodded frantically. People just want to sleep. Can't you guys save me some snacks? Look at my old man. It must be a little pimple, otherwise why do I keep wearing a hood? Fire Dragon. Im looked directly at Vlad. Oh. Vlad looked so excited that he almost raised his hand. Revolutionary Army. Im looked at Dragon again. The will you have inherited, if spread like this, will destroy the world I love, so you must be destroyed. Quote. Dragon didn't speak. Also, Marine. Im finally looked at Akainu. Tisk. His Excellency the Marshal was quite upset. 800 years. Im sighed. I have already made Marine forget that the so-called justice is the government, that is, my will. It's so ugly. Everything is so unbearable for me. Im saying, looks like it's time to clean up. Get the world back to what I want it to be. Yeah, do you think of yourself as the god of creation? Vlad smiled. It's incredible. I want to make the whole world I love better. Im said so, and raised his right hand. Boom. The tremors that have been going on have been stronger and stronger, and the terrifying force as if the sky is collapsing is as terrifying as the subsidence of the continental plate at the end of the world. Wow! Vlad exclaimed, this is. Also very surprised as Fujitora. What is this? Mr. Admiral was sweating on his forehead. What the hell is this? Boom. Quote. A huge explosion sounded suddenly, and then there was an even stronger earthquake. Fortunately, this ancient city of Pan had been blasted into the sky by Yimu before, otherwise it would have collapsed in such a shock. Well. Vlad frowned, with a very obvious sense of weightlessness, and felt that his body began to rise. Of course, it was not that he was flying, but that the place under his feet began to rise. Let's get to know each other well. The one who purified this world 800 years ago. The King of Heaven. From the perspective of Vlad and others, you may not see anything, but if you look at it from the outside, you will be surprised to see it. From Mariajoy down, a huge gap appeared on the red soil continent, and the solid red rock and soil had collapsed directly because a huge floating city has already taken to the sky.